Several commenters noted the symbolism of President-elect Obama's rally in Grant Park, last in the national consciousness for the Days of Rage riots in 1968. With our first post-baby boom president, are we ready to move on past the polarization that characterized the 1960s and the culture wars that followed? Tomorrow, Stephen Kasher Gallery will host a panel discussion on the legacy of the 1960s, good and bad, as part of an exhibit of photographs from those days by David Fenton. We're joined now by David Fenton and another of the panelists, former Weather Underground leader Bernadine Dohrn. Welcome to WNYC.
Thanks.
Thank you.
David Fenton, tell us a little about the photographs on display. Are they from your book, Shots in American Photographer's Journal, 1967, 1972?
Some are, some aren't. There's a lot of new photographs. I decided to do this because it's 40 years since 1968, 69, and we haven't really had the discussion of what the impact of that whole period was yet on American history. We just saw an amazing example of it. There's no way that Obama would have become president if it wasn't for the sacrifices of the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Panthers and all the people that fought for that and sacrificed. And we also have hopefully now not going to have these foreign war misadventures that we all fought against in that period. And the passion and the intensity of it was really breathtaking. You know, I was a kid at the time. I was a teenage high school dropout photographer.
I saw the picture of you. You were such a sweet little baby-faced young man.
And
just amazing.
And I was permanently warped by this experience. Imagine, for example, the first time I ever went into a courtroom was the day they bound and gagged Bobby Seale at the Chicago 7 trial. I watched these federal marshals bind and gag and chain this black man, and the whole courtroom go into pandemonium and violence, and spectators attack the U.S. Marshals. And I'm like, so this is American law. It was very affecting.
What do you see as the legacy of the 1960s and of the violence you took part in as one of the leaders of the Weathermen?
Well, I was also a leader of SDS, just to round out the picture, and involved in the civil rights movement from my early days in law school. Amy, I happened to have the luck to be in Grant Park this week with 500,000 other people in Chicago.
What'd that feel like?
It was a transcendent moment. It was, I think it represents another milestone, really, on the long journey toward racial and economic justice in the United States. But it's a milestone, a moment that we should savor. It was, there we were looking up at the Hilton Hotel and the statues and all of the iconic images, the lake, and it was a beautiful autumn night. And, young people, mainly young people, but enough sprinkling of our generation to be notable. And, every race and economic background, ethnic and economic background, and all of us feeling that we knew each other, that we had a common stake, that our disagreements were less important than our unity.
So what did you make of the symbolism, thinking here you were standing at this moment in this time and reflecting back on what Grant Park stood for in 1968?
Well, it was wonderful to feel the peacefulness of it. It had a quality of celebration. I mean, there were moments in which we were dancing with total strangers, and there were moments when we were weeping at President-elect Obama's speech. But there were, there was also the sense of we've come somewhere. We've put behind us the last 8 years. We've put behind us maybe the last 30 years. We're joining the globe. We're becoming a nation among nations. Nobody, I think, is foolish enough, certainly no people of color are foolish enough to think that we've transcended race. But we've definitely crossed a milestone.
Bernadine Dohrn, we can't let you go without noting that your husband Bill Ayers played a part in the recent election as the terrorist Barack Obama palled around with, according to the Republicans. What was it like to be at the eye of that storm?
Hopefully the storm is over so I can tell you about it better next week. We were part of a neighborhood in Chicago, Hyde Park, where the Obamas also live, and part of a community in Chicago. And that community, I think, has been very strong and clear about what a stupid paradigm the terrorist paradigm is. And I think it was rejected decisively by the voters, not just by young people, but actually by people across the spectrum and by the bulk of the Republican Party. So what you really have here is an ongoing attempt to discredit the 60s, to criminalize all of us. And it just happened to land with my lifelong partner. And so it will pass. And there's a lot of work to be done.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to take calls because we ran out of time. But Mark in Manhattan did phone in saying he has 2 teenage